There's a lot of hype today about new home construction, especially in North Dallas, Texas, where there's tract homes being put up left and right in all these different subdivisions. And we see a lot of buyers as real estate agents as well, looking for these new homes as they are far superior to an existing home. But the problem is that is not always the case. Momentous family, we have a treat for you today because we are going to be talking about something I am deeply passionate about, and that is new construction, specifically tract home builders and some of the problems we are seeing today. We are going to shine the light on the darkness around new construction, specifically tract home builders. Custom home builders are a completely different story. Tract home builders, their main mission is to maximize profits by delivering and building as many homes as possible. We are going to be discussing 5 key points in today's video, and I think that these 5 key points are going to enlighten your mind to some of the cons that aren't talked about when buying new construction homes. If you find any value in this video, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. Mind you, I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Dallas, Texas. I am also a custom home builder and high-end remodeler for homes. So we're talking about this from experience and not just hipto facto, read on the internet, walk through a few houses. The 5 key problems with new construction that we're going to talk about today is the quality of the actual homes being built, the location of these subdivisions as the homes are being built in. Number 3, we're going to talk about the age of the actual home and then the age of the development and how that affects it. Number 4, future expenses that might not be seen today. And then finally, number 5, the actual risk of defects coming up in the future and what the expenses are in the future, coming back to the fact that the quality of the homes being built are garbage. Let's start off with the quality of the homes. I'm coming at this from a perspective of a custom home builder and looking at tract home builders and how they just push out homes as fast as possible. A good example is this is how they actually do their waterproofing methods, how they do their dry times, because they have to kind of cut corners and do less effective methods in order to achieve the schedules that they have put in place, to do the volume that they have, but then also to reduce the maximum amount of man hours possible. A shower is a good example. A lot of tract home builders today, they're not using proper waterproof membranes. Maybe they're painting on waterproofing, and I've done tons of videos of this, of the problems that can happen when you don't do a high quality waterproof membrane like a Schluter system that we prefer. Another problem with the quality is you're gonna see inferior insulation, you're gonna see inferior door quality and door hardware. So a lot of these homes, they might be $750,000, $1 million, but they have hollow core doors. So they're 2 pounds, they feel like they come from Home Depot. The door handles themselves, they're sheet metal garbage that it looks very, very clean. Notice a substantial difference. Some of these vinyl tile floors, they dip and they pop over time with expansion and contraction, so you actually feel the hollowness underneath. Countertop material, it's quartz, but bottom of the barrel quartz that looks pretty. Now there's problems with the actual temperature you can put on these surfaces, staining, different materials like that. These are all the issues. They're not high quality. To wrap up how poor these homes are being built, remember the finishes, they're not high quality. They look really pretty though. The methods used to build these homes, they're inferior methods, whether it's from the skill side or the actual materials being used. This is done to both decrease costs and decrease man hours on the job and save the tract home builders money. Point number 2, location, location, location. These tract home builders, they build in subdivisions. That means they need 50, 60, 100, 500 acres of land for these plots. And in most communities, most neighborhoods, most cities, there isn't just a blank 100 acres lying around. So these subdivisions are built on the outskirts of town. That means from economic centers, they're not closely located. You're not gonna have a local strip mall or like a local dining, maybe an office building so you can actually get to work. What does that mean when you buy these homes? That means your commute times will increase. That means there is nothing in walking distance. It will take 5, 10, 15 minutes just to get out of your subdivision, depending on where your home is. Now, some of these subdivisions have amenities, but we'll get into that in 1 second. You might be buying a new construction home, but you might have to trade that off to drive an extra 20 minutes to work and increase your commute time. You might have to drive 20 minutes just to do all the stuff you normally like doing, because these tract homes, these new construction homes that are being built, are in subdivisions on the outskirts of town. Point number 3, I want to talk about the age of the actual home and then the age of the subdivision these homes are being built in. Now, being a health freak, I am very, very conscious on my health, the health of my clients and my team members. That is why I believe in healthy eating, fitness, but then also the environment we live in has to promote health at all fronts. New home construction, because of the materials being used, there is this gassing off period with new construction homes. That is the point where there is VOCs, volatile chemicals, that actually go out into the air as the home is being built and then for the months or a couple years later. Things like paint, they have VOCs that give off these gassing off effects that you breathe in and that are proven harmful to your health. So remember that it's not going to kill you, but it is detrimental to your health, and you might have sinus issues. You might have these other issues pop up the first year or two. So when you move into your home with your family, keep that in mind that you are running that risk. The other side is the actual development age. A lot of times when you buy a new construction home, you are buying at the beginning or the middle of these developments. The development communities, they do not build their amenities first. They will build the first 1 or 2 major items, say the community house, say the main pool, right? But they might tote that they have 10 miles of walking trails, but there's only 2 of them completed. The sidewalks throughout the community aren't completed, so you can't get from one place to the other just by walking without going through the construction. There will be home building continuously going on for years to come. The Grove in Frisco, Texas, we actually did a phenomenal video, and you can view the video looking here, of a home tour and then also community tour of the Grove in Frisco. Beautiful community. However, it is 5 years later and they are still building it out. Imagine if you bought the home at the beginning 5 years ago. There wouldn't be anything there. Mind you, for 5 years, you have been dealing with construction trucks going in and out every single day. And listen, being a builder, I love hearing a nail gun here and there, but every single day, I might not want to hear that. Last point, the landscaping in new subdivisions are not old growth. What does that mean? That means that you're gonna have very small trees. The shrubbery isn't going to be well built in. When they build these subdivisions, they actually destroy all the vegetation. They come in with bulldozers, they cut down all the trees, and they level it out. So a lot of these plots of land are just gonna be empty dirt, weeds growing, things like that. And then on your street where you're living, there's gonna be little baby trees, little cute vegetation, but it's not gonna be old growth like when you go through some of these communities that are 50, 60 years old, and they have these big, beautiful oak trees overhanging over the streets. You're not gonna get any of that. Point number 4, this is a hidden one. It is future expenses that might arise after you buy the home or during the home buying process. Most of the time when you buy a new construction home, you are buying it before it's actually built. It might be the foundation poured and they're just getting going, or they might be starting when you give them the deposit for the actual home. And a lot of builders contracts, especially after COVID in 2020, that where material prices went off the chain, they shot skyrocket, all of their contracts now have material escalation clauses. So if you put a contract in with a home that's $600,000 and then inflation hits or another illness comes up and another virus comes out that, or whatever it is, a black swan event that raises material costs up, you might be actually paying $650,000 for your home instead of the $600,000 that you originally signed. When you sign a contract, make sure you read it. You might have a variable cost in there. Point number 2 is that in 1 year to 3 years, the tax assessment district will come back to these neighborhoods, and since they appreciate so much because the community built out, your taxes are gonna go way up. So you're actually gonna be paying more in taxes for these properties than you would if you were in an older neighborhood. Finally, another future expense that is very possible to come up and does all the time is the HOA fees will increase. This is because sometimes the actual subdivision isn't bought out as fast as the builders or the developers would hope that it would happen. So now they have empty plots of land that they were expecting to have income from, but they're no longer getting it. So these HOA dues have to go up to maintain the expenses and the profits of the developers and the subdivision holder. When you buy a home, your taxes could go up, you have a variable contract most likely on your construction costs, and then finally your HOA dues might increase, or you get into a bad HOA community that's not properly managed. Let's talk about the final point number 5, and that is the risk of actually buying a new home. The defects that could come up. Remember, point number 1, we talked a whole bunch about the decreased quality of these homes being built today, especially in the last 3 years. Poor waterproofing, skip processes, not actually doing the proper flashing, bad bathroom waterproofing, poor roofing tiles. These things all add up to a potential defect down the road because the home just isn't as durable as it should have been. So in that 1 to 3 year mark, you can see problems arise. Things like soil settling, because when they actually demolish these lands, they cleared all the vegetation. A lot of times they have to bring in new dirt, and then they just pour a flat concrete pad on this dirt. They just pour a whole bunch of concrete. There's no actual piers or foundation that goes into a lot of these homes. So you have this unsettled soil. Mind you, soil can take up to 20 years to settle by itself, that this massive 4,000, 3,000, 6,000 square foot home is sitting on. So after a year, 2, 3 years, and you go through these seasons of expansion and contraction, the soil starts to settle, and you could have shifting, foundation cracks, and these different things running up through your walls, creating damages you weren't expecting. Secondly, defects don't come up on day 1, they come up year 2, 3 years later. A window leak doesn't happen the day you buy a new home construction. It happens year 2, year 3, year 4, and then all of a sudden you have rot inside your walls that you weren't ready for, and you have to replace your windows, which isn't cheap. When you do buy a new home construction, it is very important that the actual maintenance expenses are going to be drastically lower than buying an older home that's 20, 30, 40, maybe even 100 years old. But once you start getting to that 8-year mark, and especially the 12-year mark, is when your expenses are going to skyrocket, because everything starts to fail at the same time. Hot water heater, HVAC system, your roof, exterior painting, interior finishes start to deteriorate. All these different things start to come up, and they come up all at once. Whereas if you have an existing home, it is just a constant work that has to get going on. But you probably won't lose your hot water heater, your HVAC system, and need a roof replacement all in 1 year. To recap all this, when you're buying a new home, make sure you do your due diligence on this builder. Really look through that home. Check the quality of the finishes. Does it just look pretty, or is it performing well? If you have any questions, ask what materials were used, the brand, and then contact a local contractor or get on Google and do some research. Point number 2, remember the location. It's going to be located outside of the major economic circles because it is in a new subdivision. Point number 3, we have the home age and development age. The development community probably isn't going to be finished when you get there, and there's going to be work going on for years to come, which you don't get what you were promised when you actually bought a home in that neighborhood. Point number 4 is future expenses. They will probably rise, taxes, HOA dues, and maybe even the contract that you sign on to buy that home. Finally, we have the risk of defects. These are unknowns that will probably happen to some degree. It's just a matter of how bad it actually is. Momentous family, building is something that we are extremely passionate about. We always build with excellence. We are always in constant development to understand what the best materials are, the best methods, to make sure that our clients get the best possible service. So when I go in as a real estate agent and I see how these tract homes are being built, it is actually disgusting to see that people are paying $750,000, $1 million, $1.2 million for. I think that buyers might even be better in a lot of cases buying a home that's 40 years old for $200,000 less and using that $200,000 to craft the home of their dreams in a location that they don't want to ever move from. Momentous family, thank you so much today. This is Patrick Robertson signing off. This was a good one. Stay tuned as we bring you more and more information on building, real estate, helping you find your dream home, helping you build your dream home, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.